We are living through such an amazing period of time, and it really seems like things that were once deemed impossible happen all the time lately. And for those of us who grew up along with the internet, we've seen the vast evolution that technology's had from Windows 95 computers on dial up to 5G cell phones that everyone's carrying around and have seamless video conferencing real time. It's really crazy. It's like something out of Star Trek. But what we've seen so far might just pale in comparison to the next big leap. I'm talking about virtual reality, baby.
And Jesus wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer.
The rise of virtual reality seems inevitable, especially as companies like Facebook and Sony are just dumping resources into building this technology and expanding these worlds and the tools within. It's becoming really easy to picture like a Ready Player One type future where everyone spends more time in VR than they do out in the real world. I mean, we've already seen this happen to some degree, just with how social media has dominated our attention over the past decade. But the COVID pandemic really started pushing things to go faster in that direction as more people sought out ways to connect and interact with people remotely.
The proportion of Americans working from home full-time has gone from 1 in 50 to more than 1 in 3.
It seems like a lot of people have been more cynical about technology as it's become more all-encompassing around our lives, and there's a certain wariness that a lot of people have when like Mark Zuckerberg talks about the metaverse being the future, for instance.
Whether it's a hologram sitting next to you in a physical meeting or in a discussion taking place in the metaverse, that's going to be a game changer.
I have a bad feeling about this.
But on the flip side, it is hard not to get a little excited about the possibility that VR brings to allow people to create worlds and express themselves in new and interesting ways. Which brings me to today's guest, Aurora Townsend, who is one of the founders of the world's first virtual reality dating platform called Planet Theta. Now, the idea of VR dating might sound kind of odd to some people, myself included if we're being honest, but people used to feel that same way about online dating in general, but now apps like Tinder and Bumble are totally standard. I myself actually met my girlfriend through a dating app, and it's a wonderful thing. So I try to keep an open mind about how the next wave of technology could potentially improve the dating experience. So I sat down with Aurora, looking forward to talking about the possibilities and the challenges behind creating the world's first VR dating app. All right, and we are recording. So Aurora, thank you so much for coming in all this way to join me for this.
Of course, I'm excited.
So you are the creative lead and CMO, my bad, of Fire Flare Games?
Yes, that is correct. And our company is making the world's first VR dating app.
So that's really exciting. I have a whole bunch of things I want to ask you about it, but to start off, will you just kind of paint me a picture of like, what will that look like for your user who wants to go into the first VR dating app? What's that going to be like?
A whole other experience unlike ever before, in all honesty. I don't want to say it's going to be another part of the metaverse, because at some point, sure, we are part of the metaverse, but it's going to be a world that people can come and experience another aspect of their life. Not a form of escape, but a form that they could add to their lives of connecting with people romantically, platonically, just building other connections that they are not getting in their normal day-to-day life.
So in terms of just like the actual experience, when you put the headset on, what will you see?
Well, first, you're probably, if people are playing with their Oculus Quest 2 headsets, you'll probably see the Oculus lobby. But when you go into our app, right now, the first time you go in, there's going to be a great little ship that takes you around the planet, and you'll get to see Planet Veta and its beautiful hole in the universe that we've created. And, it's going to take you in there, and it's going to be a whole other city. I mean, hopefully when we continue to develop this app, we are going to create a full-on world. Right now, we just kind of have a city and some naturescapes that people can explore. We have a beautiful enchanted forest. People can go wander and go play around, feed the bears, find the treasure. all the good stuff. But we want to make it much bigger than what anyone probably can imagine. We want it to change dating culture, how it is now.
So, what are some of the ways that you think that this will change dating culture?
Well, one of the main things, especially, as a woman, is the whole safety aspect, if I go on a date in Planet Theta, I don't have to worry about getting kidnapped or sold off in some weird circle. Like, I can kind of see if there are red flags of someone that they've piqued my interest in, and that is something that I find really huge because not only women experience that, but all genders, everything in every spectrum, everyone has felt this to some extent. And we want to create a safe and place where everyone can go and be who they truly are and just not have to worry about it. Like, I hate having the thought of people feeling scared for their safety, trying to just romantically find a partner. I want to provide a place where that doesn't exist.
What got you to the name and concept for Planet Theta specifically?
Planet Theta was almost a direct idea from COVID. Personally, I was still going through a lot of college. I had big social circles that I was a part of, but COVID happened and everything was cut off. Life was kind of paused in our whole world, and that was really weird. And I find a lot of my happiness in connection with people. So I spiraled deeply into a deep depression for a while. And I saw all of my friends not being able to continue their romantic lives. They were depressed, and I am a little bit of an empath in the sense of like seeing other people sad makes me even sadder, and I want to help them. I want to make them happy. I want them to thrive and not just nudge along. While that's good, but there could be so much more to be had. And that's where Planet Theta kind of evolved from, was seeing all of my friends in this deep sadness. And it's like, there's not a place for them. There's not a place for them to continue dating safely. Let's make that.
So everyone's talking about the metaverse right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the big new thing. I'm curious, you guys are the first VR dating website. Do you know of others who are trying to get into that space as well?
The Match group, like Tinder and stuff, have tried as well, and I believe there's a Match group recently bought a South Korean dating app, but it's very similar to Pokemon Go, in the sense of it's more augmented reality versus the headset. And a lot of people with the similar ideas have that sort of thought where it's not fully in VR. With the virtual reality headsets, there's a lot of confusion between VR on like your desktop versus with the headsets, and we are used through our headsets. You can't use them through a desktop or through your phone necessarily. So there's a big difference, and there's not really a competitor for that. However, there are people that are similar, and we wish them all their success, because it's just like you're trying to build a place that connects people. So we never want to fight that, and because of that, we don't really have competition, but we kind of do in parallel in a different way.
Yeah.
And we all kind of just want each other to all succeed.
I'm curious, like, what is the actual process like of meeting somebody on your platform? Like, do you see them in the world and you go talk to them, or do you like have people you swipe through like on Tinder, or how do you actually get to meet new people?
But we have options for people, because we realized having just one main thing like swiping or whatever wasn't good enough to be the only option. So there are certain spaces where you can go into a bar or cafe and you meet someone that you actually like. you can pursue them that way, and that's great. We truly support that. But if you're having a little tougher time, or if you're just a little nervous and you just want to see if you can meet people, we do have a sort of our take on swiping. It's called microdating. It's essentially little speed dates that you have. You'll talk to 3 different people for about a minute, and if you like them, you could give them a thumbs up, and if they do the same, you guys have matched, and you guys can go on a little micro date, a little 10-minute coffee date, just to see how things go after that. So there's options.
It's pretty interesting. Is there a way to link up with people based on interests or something, or choose a world based on, if you're somebody into hiking, you could be I want an outdoors scene, and you would get linked up with other people who wanted to meet people in that kind of context?
Well, in the end, we will get there. Right now at launch, we won't have all of the features like that we will in the future. It's going to take us a little bit as kind of the first people doing it. We have to sort of reinvent the wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's taking us a bit longer and a little more trial and error of things that we thought we could get done right at launch. But we're going to keep building our world after launch and keep upgrading and building out the universe.
Yeah. It seems in some ways it seems like it's a really cool idea because there's such a lack of limitations in terms of, you can go on whatever date around the world you want to, you can go up in space, there's so many options of what you can do. But it also seems like in some other ways there are limitations built into it in terms of even if you're at a VR bar, and you go, the classic thing in a bar is can I buy you a drink?
Right.
But if you go buy a drink, to actually drink a drink, you have to take off your headset,
Right.
so it's a digital drink, but then you're not going to get that same social lubricant that you would.
Right.
So what's kind of your thoughts around that, especially developing a bar atmosphere? Do you have a solution for buying a drink or?
Well, we have a few ideas that we are super excited to implement. One is that you can order a drink in Planet Theta if you're at a bar. This is a form of consumable. Hopefully we'll have a bartender that'll make you the drink too, so you can order different types. And it's the show, the performance, it's all about that. But at the same time, around launch, maybe a little after, we'll be implementing something similar to DoorDash. So if you're on a date with someone, you will not see any of their information at all, but you can offer to buy them a snack. Let's say you guys want to stream a movie together. Well, I want to buy him some popcorn. So I'm going to order him a little popcorn. The other user does not see any of your personal information. And next thing you know, some popcorn shows up at your door. You can eat popcorn while you guys watch a movie together.
Is there a way that you can choose to project certain information about yourself? If you want to have, I love Harry Potter, or whatever the thing is you want to share to the world.
Right.
Is there a way that you can have that as part of your avatar or something?
I'm sure there's custom shirts that you could put on your avatar if you really wanted to. But one thing that they could do that we think is really cool, Planet Theta gives every single user their own kind of high-rise apartment. That's private for them, but they can invite people over if they would like. It could be more than just their date. It could be some of their friends. It could be a group date, whatever. But everyone will have their own little customizable apartment. So if they're big Harry Potter nerds, they could make it magical and all that great stuff. So people do see it.
What sort of ways to interact have you developed within the world? I think of there's that Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you've seen it, but where the gamers end up falling in love in a VR game, fighting game. These two best friends end up falling in love and having a whole kind of physical relationship through the VR game. But it gets me thinking about those are the kind of new things that you could potentially do on a date, or things like play a fighting game, or
Right.
whatever kind of things that you wouldn't want to do in real life.
It's the great thing about VR, with all the great technology advancements. They have these new haptic vests and gloves, and we totally see that being really big in VR, especially as more companies are developing these different awesome vests and gloves that make you feel things in VR. We're hoping to implement that in our app later so then you could feel like you're holding hands with someone, or you can give a hug and you feel the vibrations of the person's pressure that they are putting on you. We totally want to implement all that into our app just because that adds to their relationship even more so, and we love that.
And I imagine that stuff's probably pretty far down the line, especially because even if the technology exists, most people don't have access to those vests and stuff at this point. But do you have like a current way built into the world to like display intimacy, I guess? Like if you are on a date with somebody and it goes really well, I mean, it seems like if you like played a video of like kissing somebody from first person, like that'd be kind of an awkward, not necessarily romantic experience, but have you thought of ways to like accomplish something similar?
We're still working on that. That is something the three founders and myself, or two other founders and myself, have been pondering to try to build better, because of course your avatars can touch and it can seem like, you guys are dancing together, you're holding hands, hugging, but there's still a little awkward aspect, and that is something we are working on to develop right now. And
Cool.
hopefully we'll see more of it, and I'm sure we will. We have a great team of developers at another reality studio who we love working with, and they've created some amazing things right now that we are so excited to launch with.
I'm curious if you are planning to have any sort of like identity verification system, because like that's like I feel like the good and the bad of VR is like on one hand you can express yourself however you want to be. You can create an avatar that is whoever you want to be. If you feel like your body doesn't match who you are in VR, you can make your body match. But then it's like you don't necessarily know who the person behind the avatar is when you're talking to them. Do you guys have a way of trying to work around that?
We do, actually. We've been trying to find a nice, happy medium because our app is for 18 years or older. If there's a minor, they immediately get kind of temporarily banned, so we manually review it to make sure that there are no discrepancies, or if there are, to deal with it appropriately. There's some great verification plugins, right now, where you can either take scan the back of your ID, kind of like what bars do. So they don't take your information, but they just scan the barcode on the back, make sure you're like 18 years or older, We want to do something similar. They're similar to Tinder. There's also photo verifications, just to triple check that you are in fact who you are. But that doesn't mean that you need to show these pictures to other people. We are not sharing it. So no one else will really know. That information, at least.
Fair enough. What do you think is kind of like the long-term vision, or like what's the goal in terms of, is it just trying to get people to meet, or once people meet, do you want them to stay on the platform? It's like with a lot of other dating apps, like people use it, they find their partner and they leave. But with something like this, it seems like you could have so many ways to enjoy the space together that you might not necessarily want to leave. So what's kind of your goal in that sense?
I mean, we hope we don't want people, people don't want to leave. That really is our end goal. One of the great things that we've centered Planet Theta around is that, unlike other dating apps, it's not just for single people. It's not just for looking to hook up. It's a place where you can meet people and you can start a relationship, but this app also allows long distance couples and people that are already in relationships that maybe live together. But with COVID, it's still so hard to go out and have proper say date nights. Well, in VR, you guys can go continue your bond and the foundation of your relationship in our app, and that is something that we want to help because, in all honesty, COVID's not going away. And it still brings dangers and frustration to our everyday lives. And one thing that's great is that COVID doesn't exist in Planet Theta.
Yeah.
You're safe there. And that's what we want. I mean, I'm sure you experienced all of the frustrations when COVID closed everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's awful.
So I guess then that leads to from a philosophical standpoint, are you worried about a Matrix scenario, or there was a book series, Pendragon, that I read when I was a kid, and one of the books had a world where everyone lived in VR, and they had tubes going up their arms, and the real world had essentially been abandoned because everyone would prefer to spend time in their VR world.
Right.
Do you guys talk about this stuff or like think about this, or does that sort of stuff play into the way you approach this?
You know, we do an extent, mainly because the other founders and I, we love to kind of play with sort of those mind thoughts and whatnot. But we are not aiming to do that, just to make that very clear. We don't want Planet Theta to like take over your world or to replace the real world. We are just here to give tools to people. Tools for their relationships, for their friendships, for everything. We are not a form of escapism. I mean, we probably might be for some people, but that's not our goal.
Do you worry about like if your platform is living on the Oculus, you know, which is owned by Facebook? Do you have concerns about like Zuck and his team coming down and telling you like what can exist in your world or setting guidelines for you? Is it, I mean, I think right now it's kind of the Wild West, but
Right.
is that something you guys have thought about?
Oh yeah. Because you know, getting on the Oculus store, you gotta go through Facebook and stuff, and they have their own set of rules, which is a interesting field to navigate around. You know, they're a big player, but what they did with the Quest 2 has evolved the VR industry like no other. I don't think without Facebook that the Oculus and the VR industry, what it is right now, would have gotten here this quickly. Kind of sad to say, but probably true. We are concerned, you know, as they evolve and as they gain more power. As you saw, they like bought the One Rhythm workout game and then banned them from the store. So we're curious to see how that might roll in other social apps. But one thing that's great is that even though hopefully we are on the Oculus store, we're also right now available on the Steam store. So people can access us through Steam, and we are also trying to make a deal with Epic Games, hopefully.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because your platform's releasing for Oculus in March, right?
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask if you were planning to like tackle like PlayStation VR and Vive and like the other big headsets.
Definitely Vive.
Yeah.
You know, Steam is a big player, and it's weird. I believe like around 46% of Steam VR users are using the Oculus headsets. So there's that, which is great for us.
Yeah.
The PlayStation VR, you know, we are concerned with console VRs mainly because they are predominantly owned by kids. And as a way to kind of avoid that, we are not really looking into like the PSVR system, especially even though the new one's coming out. We are mainly going to be on the Oculus and Steam stores mainly. Just, you know, just an extra step that we're trying to provide to block out underage humans. You know, we want to protect them too.
Makes sense. I definitely, back in the 90s, when I was a teenager, was lying and saying I was older in chat rooms and stuff.
Exactly.
That stuff definitely happens.
Exactly.
I'm curious if users can like block each other or filter out who can talk to them. Like I know that right now, virtual reality is like largely a male dominated like hobby. So like if I imagine like a virtual bar and you know there's only 2 women in that virtual bar and then there's like 300 men trying to come up and talk to them, like is there a way that people can kind of filter through or like somehow block people or navigate that?
Oh, definitely. You know, that's just an extra safety feature that we've added for all users. You'll be able to mute people, you'll be able to block people, and that way they can't see or hear you, because we found that will be needed for certain populations that are use our app. And, you know, we want people to feel comfortable and stuff. And Lord knows that I've used the mute button in VR chat because of just being harassed by people immediately when I logged into a world. I was like, oh, Lord, okay. Time to block you, and you. All right, that leaves 2 people left.
Let's see here. So you said that there's like some outdoor reservoirs and there's bars. What other types of like environments exist that people can meet up in?
Well, you know, it's going to be ever changing. We have a whole giant document that has a list of everything that we are going to be adding after we launch in that year period. But right now, we will be launching with one of our main sports bars. We're going to have a nice little nature cafe that people can go explore. There's going to be multiple outdoor environments. We will be hosting different parties throughout it. We have, I think, 4 or 5 different clubs we'll be launching with too. You know, depending if you want the more like proper nightclub and you just want to dance and see pretty lights, we got you. Like,
Totally.
and we have the more chill, like sort of jazzy vibe. You know, if you just want to kind of feel the vibes, chill with people, we got that.
One thing that I think Tinder really changed the game for, in terms of, in particular men, but you know everyone, was how much it softened rejection. In terms of like, you know, you swipe left, you never think about it or
No.
hear about it. But with VR, if you're like approaching someone, it kind of brings back that real life element of having to like muster the courage to go talk to somebody and then like potentially face that rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys incorporated any like, I don't know, anything different or something to kind of deal with that?
Yeah, that's actually a discussion that we have had probably the most, in all honesty. Because 2 of my other partners, you know, there's a little bit of an age gap between us. I grew up with like the whole dating app sort of thing. They did not, so it's actually really interesting to compare our perspectives and our differences of the dating culture on that, and that has actually extremely helped us in making Planet Theta. In our matching system of microdating, it's very similar to swiping. You know, if you don't match with the person at the end of it, you're not really gonna get any notification.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you do go up and ask someone, like actually purposely ask someone, that's kind of more of an old school sort of take. But you know, some people are more comfortable with that than they are getting like set up through little speed dating sessions in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we wanted to give them that ability. But those who don't like that, go through our microdating. It's a lot of fun.
I'm curious if you have other like tools within the world to like defy the physical limitations that you normally have. So for example, like in VR, like let's say you wanted to pull out a rose out of nowhere for somebody, like do you
Yeah.
have stuff like that built in?
Oh yeah, we will be. We are in the process right now of making those. We have a whole list of consumables. You know, one of my favorite ideas was having you could write someone a little love letter, and then it could like asking them for another date or something, and a little owl will go fly it towards them and drop off a little letter for the other person to open. It's very much of a little Harry Potter-esque, you know, sort of magical, like the owl knows where it's going. But you know, just like stuff like that. It's small. It's the small details that really matter in this. It's like, you know, I may not be able to do this in real life, but I'd love to do this in real life, so let's do it.
Yeah, that's fun. How many people are on your team working on this?
Ooh, you know, that's, I think we have between 50 and 70 people,
Wow.
I think. You know,
How
our
did
whole
you
team.
get started off the ground? I mean, you had this idea during COVID. What were the steps to actually make it start happening?
Well, originally, you know, it was just me and our 2 founders, Chris and Aaron. The 3 of us came with it all, the idea around last Christmas, I think. And it took us a little bit to figure out, being like, okay, none of us have made a dating app. One of our business partners, Chris, fantastic entrepreneur. He's had major successes before, you know, so he had an idea of kind of how to get a business started, whereas I was more of the creative outlook of like social media, campaigning and whatnot. And Aaron is great tech. He's built our website, has dealt with a lot of junk that I would never want to touch, and he's managed to master and implement things. But it was the hardest is trying to figure out how to hire our team, hire different artists, because right now we span all around the world. We have some artists in London that also frequent Turkey. Part of our dev teams on the East Coast, like we're all just a little spread out.
That's how it seems to be these days.
Yeah, very much so. It's great though, at least we are a tech company, so we might as well be okay using tech.
Yeah. Do you guys do meetings in VR at all?
Oh, we do. We also play these different games as team bonding exercises, is what we call them. Us, the founders, love to do those sort of games. We love co-op games where we have to work together, we have to talk, and that actually makes us interact so well as a team when we're out of those because we've learned to communicate with each other really well, even though the three of us are very, very different people. Just very different people. Like, all of us work very differently, so it's kind of awesome to be like, oh, look, our games really show how we work together in real life. That's really neat, you know?
One of the things I'm curious about is like because VR is something you really have to plug into, you know, versus like if you're texting somebody on Tinder, you get that notification wherever you are. You have to like consciously go and like plug in. It's almost like going back to your desktop before cell phones were around, you know, where you got to plug into it.
Yeah.
So do you guys think at some point you'll like integrate with like some sort of text messaging or augmented reality or something to make it more accessible or more able to be on the go?
Oh, yeah. So one of the great things that we are launching with is we're having a mobile app for your phone that's associated with Planet Theta. It's also where it makes it easier for you to change your profile up. You know, you could add pictures if you want people to see them. And for people that you've matched with and gone on a few dates with, you can have the choice to text them, to Facebook them, or not Facebook, but like FaceTime them. Without having their number, so you still have a sense of privacy and safety. But you can talk to them more on the go and be like, hey, you want to meet up later? Like, let's meet up at the bar at 9 or something. Yeah. Or just chat and see how their day was. We want to provide people that because we get people who are on the go and cannot always be on their VR headset, you know?
Yeah. How did you guys get your startup money? I'm curious. Did you have a crowdfunding campaign or do you have investors?
Well, right now, essentially the three of us have been kind of funding to get it off the go. But right now we are currently looking for some investors, and we have a few different offers that we're playing with right now to kind of help us finish developing the app because making a VR app isn't cheap.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. We have just a normal cell phone app, and it's cost us way more money than we expected just to get it working properly.
Oh yeah, you know, we came into the world with very different thoughts of how it costs, and then we got humbled very quickly by our development team and our artistic team, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't cost that much.
I just imagine there's so much that can go wrong too when you're creating worlds.
Oh yeah, you know, there's so many bugs. The three of us test Planet Veta pretty frequently, so you know we're trying to get out all the bugs before we get our first big beta in, and then before we launch and whatnot. Because we want to try to figure out all the bugs, because there's gonna be quite a few bugs. Probably the more people we get that we are gonna have to solve. But
sure.
What's great is that our team is just so dedicated to solving these bugs that I really appreciate, and I have full trust in them that they'll figure it out.
Great. Do you guys plan to make the app free, or do you plan to charge for the app, or do you have a plan for monetization down the line?
Well, for one, when we launch, it will be free. We will kind of have like little bundles you can buy of just like fun consumables and whatnot. We will be monetizing different aspects of it later on, but the base game will still be free. It's not going to be like a pay-to-play sort of app. We will be free. However, if you're on there all the time, you know, that's when it makes sense to like buy some of our things.
So it's going to be kind of like the gamer model where you have the initial game, but then if you want to get the badass suit or whatever.
Yeah, it's also kind of similar to like Tinder Plus. You know, most people don't buy it, or Tinder Gold or whatever. Most people don't buy it, but there's about 10 to 12% of Tinder's users that do buy it, which is out of a few billion people, quite a lot.
And do you have any plans or strategies in terms of trying to attract people to your platform? I mean, I think a lot of people will be interested just because it's new and different, but do you have particular ways that you're trying to outreach to people, and particularly women? Because I know everyone says like dating apps live and die by whether they can get women to use it. So do you have like plans to try to attract those types of people?
Oh, yeah, from actually the start, that's been our main goal slash focus of our whole ad campaigns and whatnot, and will continue to be the focus. And that's one of the main reasons why we're trying to add such big safety protocols around the app, is for that women actually feel safe and they don't feel hounded like they do in other social apps, because most of the time I try to modulate my voice if I go into any social app because of just the harassment that I've had to deal with. So hopefully that will help a lot. Right now, like pre-launch, we have all these different types of giveaways and competitions for artists that we have been implementing on our social medias that have really helped us gain a really big women following. That has been really great, and we're really grateful to see it, and a lot of them have joined our beta, so we're excited to see where that goes. We're excited, actually.
Awesome. I want to kind of, we kind of touched on this a little bit. I want to jump back to it.
Yeah.
In terms of like the verification, you were talking about like verification, making sure people are old enough to use the app. Will there be a way for like the women or men or whoever using the app to verify, like if they do decide to go meet the person in person, like verify that they are who they say they are behind the avatar?
Oh, yeah.
Besides just taking their word for it?
So one of the things that we will be implementing is sort of like similar to Tinder's little check mark of sorts, just a little like verification of just being like verified.
Yeah.
Like that they are who they are. They're not catfishing. That's their face. That's great.
So then would there be any rules in terms of like making your avatar have a similar likeness, or would it be like express yourself however you want, make whatever avatar you want, but then we have this like transparency of who you are behind it?
It's both, actually. So one of the great things about the company that we were working with, Ready Player Me or Wolf 3D, they have this great AI system that will create an avatar based off of a selfie you take, and it'll make one that looks like you. Of course, more cartoonish and set in VR, but we're not enforcing that. We're just making it easy for people. If they want to show kind of what they are, that's great. However, if you are one of those creative people that like has a vision and wants to create this vision, or has a very specific look that they want to accomplish, they can customize their avatars for that reason. In Planet Theta, we want people to express who they are on the inside, and sometimes it doesn't always correlate what they are on the outside.
Yeah.
So we're all about that, but we're also all at the same time working to make sure that people aren't hiding behind, a bookcase in a way.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike.
It is, and we're optimistic for it.
I'm also curious about like how would you moderate Planet Theta in terms of like, besides just people can block other people,
Right.
but like if people, you say that like people can use this to organize beyond romantically, like what if like an extremist group decided to use your platform to host their meetings? Do you have a way to moderate that, or to be like, oh, these people are trying to organize something bad in here?
Well, one, concerning, we definitely don't support stuff like that. If it's in a public space, like one of our bars or outside, we are planning to have a moderator per room, like a real moderator that like is kind of like a bartender and like a bouncer in a way, that can kick people out. We have a zero tolerance policy. It's also a little bit of an honor system with other people, though, for people to report if they have any inclination that this is happening, to get us involved, because the three founders, we will get involved and we will put a stop to it, because we don't want any form of support or empathies to these groups, because we don't support it. We don't want hate speech. We don't want racist in our app. We want it to be a good environment that's healthy and safe and not toxic.
Totally. I think the whole internet is kind of struggling with that question right now of like, how do you deal with it? And it seems like in some ways it might be easier in VR because there's at least a representation of a physical person that you can kind of keep track of in some way.
Right.
But also it seems like if people can go into any amount of infinite rooms and worlds, it'd be pretty hard to keep track of all that
It
too.
is. One of the nice things I personally enjoy about Facebook owning Oculus is that if you're an Oculus user and you have any like flags against you in VR, Facebook does take it seriously and will like suspend you for that. And even though like say VR chat is kind of like the Wild West, because of how Facebook deals with just like their users, sure, there's a lot of annoying kids, but they're just annoying kids. You know what I mean? Or like some 12-year-old that's just being inappropriate. It's just like there's not any hate speech at all. And it's just like, okay, cool, I'm just not going to be here in this, like, I'm just going to bounce out. Because, you know, adults need their own world, too. Like,
Yeah, that's true. Well, is there anything else I haven't asked you that you think is important to talk about? Anything else you want to mention?
You know, I'm actually coming up with a blank here. You asked so many great questions that my brain is like kind of reeling with all of them.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you didn't. I mean, you're not like, oh, you missed the obvious thing.
No, you had so many great questions. You know, we're just proud to be part of the VR universe. You know, we are so excited to create a safe environment and fun too that possibly people would not have. We're all about connections. For everyone that has lost connection a little bit with the world in these really tough times, we are here to help you. We're here to provide that for people.
That's great. And where can people keep up with Project Theta?
Well, you know, we have a website. You can keep up with us at planet-theta.com, or we're on just about every single social media at just Planet Theta. You know, if people want a free Oculus because they want to get into VR, but it's hard to get it, we give away a free Oculus every month. And right now we have art competitions giving away $1,000 in cash to our top artists. So, you know, if anyone's artist, check it out.
That's very cool. That's a great way of building a community.
Oh, for sure.
And stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming and having this conversation with me. I found it really interesting.
Thank you. I really appreciated it.
All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. You know, one of the things that made this episode extra special for me was how it came to happen. I'm actually good friends with Aurora's brother. His name is Forrest. So he saw that I was launching this new YouTube channel and he reached out and he was like, hey, my sister's working on this cool VR project. I'm helping her out with it. Would you like to do an interview about it on your show? And I was like, heck yes, that sounds super cool. And it just meant a lot to me as a small YouTube channel because I spend a lot of time reaching out to people and sending out interview invites, and honestly, only a fraction of the people who you send those requests to actually even respond. So it can be kind of discouraging, and it just felt really nice to have somebody take an interest and actually reach out to me to be on the show. So I really appreciated it, and it was a really interesting topic, so I had a great time talking to Aurora about it. So thank you, Aurora. Thank you, Forrest. I'm so excited to see how the launch of Planet Theta goes. I really hope that you guys help some people find love and make new connections. I think it's fantastic that we have people on the forefront of technology that are working towards that goal. That's a really great thing. But you know, as anyone who has tried VR can tell you, it's fun and it's amazing, but the technology is still also in the infancy of what it will be one day, you know? So I'm excited to see what Planet Theta is like at launch, but I'm even more excited to see how it evolves over the next few months and years and decades even. It's going to be really cool to watch. All right. I think that's all for now. I'll probably bring back Aurora onto the podcast once their platform's live and they have some users with success stories. I think that'd be cool. But for now, I'm going to let you all go. Hit subscribe to see more. Have a good day.